Brothers, one of the most productive things you could do as a man in the self improvement space is learn the skill of cold approaching, which is really just going up to a woman that you really find attractive and going ahead and spitting some game at her, if you know what I'm saying. But really, what I want to touch on today is what the Most High taught me through cold approaching. And this has been in my spirit for a while now, but I wanted to go ahead and make it into a series. For the brothers out there that are weak to women, have been programmed by Red Pill, by Black Pill, all these other male figure spaces that are really detrimental to us that read the scriptures because they paint a reality that is very negative and not based in truth, right? I had to go through this journey of cold approaching women to recreate a new experience for myself instead of what other men were saying online or saying in these other spaces. And I've come to realize that a lot of these men have come off very bitter, very jaded, and very, how do I say this? Whiny. Brothers, you see, we're in a time where we have no excuses for not getting the woman that we want, for not getting the things that we want in our life. We're in a time where we have social media platforms. We have this tool that we could use to build ourselves up, to build our names up, and to build platforms where, we could gain monetary accomplishment or monetary success, right? We're really in a time period where we could do anything as men. This is not back 20, 30 years where it was harder to operate businesses and things like that, even 20, 30 years. But yeah, 20, 30 years. And I go to say that within this cold approaching journey, I've come to realize that the Most High used this to reprogram my mind, to reprogram and dump all the negativity that I learned from this social media space, that I learned from other men, and really gave me a fresh slate, right? So we're gonna go over this is gonna be episode 1 from a spiritual lens, what the Most High taught me through cold approaching. Now, of course, I want to say perceivably because I'm not gonna speak for the Lord, but from what I've observed and what I've come to realize as I've gone through this cold approaching journey. So the story starts off with I was dealing with the unclean woman, if I'm being honest with you. For brothers that read the scripture, you already know what that means. For people that don't read the scriptures, I was dealing with the woman who I really shouldn't have been dealing with. She was a woman who was a bisexual. She was a woman who she did not meet my standard, and she was also dealing with a woman at the time. And in my lust, I fell. I became unclean, and this created a lot of spiritual apathy for me. For you brothers that don't know what spiritual apathy is basically when you lose connection to the Lord for a minute. You feel numb, spiritually numb. But through this woman, I was taught that, I still ran off of old programming, old scarcity, right? Subconsciously, in the back of my mind or part of me did not want to let go of this woman because I still had simp programming inside of me. Though I read the scriptures, though I was around brothers that, taught me better, my father who taught me better, I still had old programming that was holding me back from really letting her go as soon as I found out she was the way she was. Eventually I did, and it was through her that I was able to say, I'm spending my time with you, spending my energy with you, and you've been good to me, but I know I could do much better than you. And this was a big turning point for me as a man, as a young man, because it was me reclaiming my power that I am a man of the Lord and I should be doing better. And that I honestly disgraced our faith by doing that. And it was something that it took me a while to overcome and to forgive myself for. And I will be talking about forgiveness in another video, especially forgiving yourself, because that's something that all men we struggle with. All men struggle with this. But that was just to lay the backstory. Through this woman, I began to realize this. I began to realize that I had no control of my mind still. Because when I started cold approaching women, this was one of the hardest tasks I ever had to do. One of my brothers, LOB, PTK mindset, told me we should start an approach challenge. He used to cold approach back in the day. So I said, okay, let's go ahead and do it. And he set the task for me to approach 3 women that week. And I said to myself, how hard could this fucking be? It was fucking difficult. I was moving with the sense of I'm a man of the Lord. I have faith. I have, not the spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. I should be able to do this with ease. No, no. Because I was quickly reminded how long I had been out of the social game. I was quickly reminded that I was 4 years removed from really socializing from with anybody that was a stranger, especially in public. Because I spent a lot of time in solitude between 2020 and 2024. Not that didn't talk to any strangers or, but I wouldn't really go approach strangers and strike up conversations. I was a conversationalist, but I had lost that skill because we had went through the coronavirus during my last years of high school. So I really didn't have that experience anymore. Not experience, but rather I was rusty. I was really rusty. And in high school, I wasn't the greatest woman. I had some success, but it wasn't like other brothers that thrive. And I came to realize very quickly that it was one of the hardest things ever. I was afraid. I was afraid. I felt bottlenecked because I knew what to say, but I couldn't get it out of my body. And when I would speak, I would shake. And this wasn't just with women, this was with any stranger. And it goes to show you how powerful the mind is because I was like, I could have great conversations. So I'm not a bad conversationalist. But what I didn't realize was I was silenced a lot as a kid and I was shamed, not shamed, but I was pushed heavily to talk to strangers by my family. And when I realized this, I came to the conclusion that, wow, you know, the things that I would go through as a kid have finally resurfaced and come back to bite me in the ass. Because when I say that I was really nervous to go up to a random stranger and just say, hey, you have a nice jacket, I am not exaggerating. And this is a fear that many people live with today, what they call social anxiety. And this was like a demon inside my head because the amount of negativity and the amount of negative thoughts that would run through my head, the amount of procrastination I would do to actually initiate a conversation with just any stranger was insane. Was insane. Like it was absolutely insane. I couldn't even get the words out to say like, you have a nice jacket. But eventually it did come out. It did come out within that first week. I went to the mall every day during that week. I would be there for 2 hours just in my head, literally out there doing cardio, Tony Snell type shit. And, you know, I finally built up the courage to go up to a lady. It was an old Asian lady. I built up the courage to go up to her and say, "Hey, you have a really nice outfit." But I was very timid and I didn't realize I was very timid either. I thought I would move more confidently and speak more confidently, but that wasn't the case. Which goes to show you, brothers, if you spend a lot of time in isolation and solitude, you will lose how to express yourself. And that is something I realized very quickly, that it is very detrimental for the average man to not go out and express himself to strangers, which is why all men need to cold approach, because it's going to establish a sense of I could go express myself unapologetically without hesitation. And because I had spent so much time away from other people, I wasn't able to do this anymore. I knew deep down that I had the gifts to be charismatic, to be conversationalist, to express myself the way I wanted to, but I couldn't do it. I was freaking out because of this. But anyways, I finally talked to this lady, and this Asian lady, I was like, "Hey, miss, excuse me." Very timid. "You have a really nice outfit." Yo, this Asian lady looked me up and down. Like, she looked at me and was like, "Thanks." Like, looked me up and down, like, "What the fuck? Like, who the fuck are you? Why are you come over and talking to me?" Like, she looked at me with disgust. And I laughed it off because it was funny. I was like, why would someone, refuse a compliment? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But, anyways, we would get punished if we did not complete the challenge. So, the first week, I did not complete the challenge. I failed the challenge. I fucking had to run 5 miles. And I was like, okay, I'm going into the second week. There's no way I don't go and approach a woman. Another thing I realized was a lot of us in our generation have been programmed by, oh, well, what if the woman, she reports you and gets you kicked out of a certain place because you're supposedly harassing her. That is true. That is a possibility. But fortune favors the bold, brothers. We cannot stand back and just let opportunities walk by us and then go on dating apps and scroll and swipe for women that aren't going to give us attention, that aren't going to want us, that are going to brush us off, and that are probably having hundreds of DMs constantly from other guys. You know, let's be realistic. We set ourselves to be distinguished when we express our social side in person, because people don't do that anymore. So now you become an outlier, and now you're selecting instead of being selected, which is very powerful. It's very powerful for you as a man to be able to say, this woman looks attractive. Let me walk over and get to connect with her to see if she's a right fit for me, if she aligns with me. This is gonna build up your mind, and it's gonna build up that that ruler mentality inside of you, and it's gonna infect to every part of your life. And that is something I had come to realize. Like, wow, I really have the cream of the crop. Anywhere I fucking go, I could choose which one I go up to. And we've lost that power because we've been conditioned by bitter men who've been screwed over by scenarios and experiences where people have gone through bad things. It happens. But out of 100, it may never happen. Out of 200, it may never happen. It may never happen. But you wait for the opportunity to come. And not to say the Most High can't make it happen, but through this, the Most High taught me, hey, you could go out and initiate. You could go out and get what you want. You just have to take a chance on yourself. I already gave you the gifts, so just go ahead and do it. And finally, within the second week, I finally got an approach in. It was the most nerve-wracking approach of my life. I went up, I was like, excuse me, I just thought you were really pretty. I wanted to come talk to you. Bro, like, I was shaking because not only, like, not only did I realize that the mind is so powerful, I was genuinely afraid. The negativity that would come up in my head before, oh, what if she deny me? What if she reject me? I had a fear of rejection. I had a fear of being seen by other people. I had social anxiety. I would overthink it. I would freeze up during those initial approaches. I would shake. So I felt ashamed because I was like, how can I not express myself the way I want to when I was someone who was able to? And it taught me like we really are programmable as human beings. We really do have the mind of a computer because a lot of these thoughts were not even my own thoughts. They were not coming from things that I genuinely went through, but they were coming from other men's perspectives, you know? So that's why I implore like many people, make your own perspectives, make your own experiences, because then you're going to get stuck and jaded like other men, and you're going to end up programming yourself to your detriment. As long as we do everything decently and in order, there's nothing wrong with going after the things you want in this life, right? I realized during, those nervous times that even the body itself will get programmed. Your nervous system is so strong, is very strong. It's very strong. And it would have me shake because I was not used to it at all. At all. But, brothers, that's going to be it for the first episode of Cold Approaching from the Spiritual Lens. To summarize it, the Most High really taught me I was running through old programming, running through programming of other men who were bitter, who were jaded, who were red pilled, who had bad experiences with women, who talked only negatively about the woman. And this is really how he started to reprogram my mind to have a neutral perspective about the woman instead of a, you know, the woman ain't this, woman ain't that, oh, what about women? Good to nothing woman. We sound like how women sound about men. And it just goes to show you that they really are a reflection of us, because if we look at them and they're so bitter, that tells you how the average man is. So I leave you guys with that. The mind is very powerful. You have to break old programmings, and I will continue to delve deeper as I go through this video series. Salute.